All right, folks, Vitek here from Wani. With us today, we have one and only legendary Karl Willets of MEMORIAM. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon, good evening. It's good to speak to you.
Likewise, my dear friend. Now, I want to start by asking you one simple question, and that is about the passion and the aggression that you have carried over from last, 2 decades and even more than that throughout your journey. Where does it come from? Even after writing so many albums, recording so many albums, going on road multiple times, where does it still come from?
Well, I don't know. I think it's a passion that comes from within, really. Something that you can't be contrived, or it's an organic feeling, and it comes really from the experience, a pure joy from being able to do it. I'm very privileged that I've been able to do this for over 30 years.
Right.
It's been a very kind of life-affirming experience to be able to be a creative individual and an artist and a musician with a core of a rhythmical shouter, I guess, metal band. And, to be able to have that creative outlet has been very cathartic in many respects and helped me through, a lot of difficult times in my life, a lot of different changes as we grow older, things, your perspectives and outlooks on life change as well. And for me to be able to convey those ideals and feelings and thoughts that I have in the form of the lyrical content and the music that we create is, it's a magical experience, and something I really enjoy. It's something that really I formulate my identity through as well.
True. That's really.
Absolutely. Without being able to do, without the ability of being able to do that, and I did spend a bit of time, not doing it about 5-10 years and not doing it at all. I think that period of inactivity and not doing it has really given me that extra push to appreciate the time that I do it, and it's a fantastic thing to be able to do, and long may that last.
Absolutely, man. Like you said that it was that 5 to 10 years of time where you didn't do it, and then there's that it reignited the passion in you, and that's probably one of the main reasons why MEMORIAM have a second album coming almost exactly a year after the first one. So the batteries were all charged, and you guys were like, let's not stop, go for the next one.
Absolutely, I'm the next one. Yeah, why we are, fully charged creatively, is predominantly because, in many respects, the band I was in, formerly, Bolso and Addiction with Frank, we'd almost got to the point with those bands that where the creativity that was involved in those bands had almost ceased to be in existence. It felt to a certain extent that the creative spark had been extinguished. We got to the point we got to where there wasn't going to be another album.
Right.
And for me, the whole essence and the importance of being in a band is all about the creativity that's involved in being a band. Being in a band is all about making music. It's all about writing material. I missed that. I really did miss that with Bolt. And ultimately found that quite frustrating in many respects. So, when this kind of, what things happened in 2015 and, Martin tragically, passed on, and I was kind of put in a position where I had to make some decisions about what I wanted to do with my future. When you lose someone that's quite close to you, which we all do in our lives, we all lose people. It does make you take stock of your own life and make decisions about what you want to do. Is by getting off your backside and doing something about it yourself. If you wait around for things to happen to yourself, often you think nothing ever happens. So what I had to do is actively get involved and start something fresh and start something new, which was MEMORIAM. And to get Andrew Whale back involved in music was fantastic. That was one of the main reasons that I wanted to do this, was to reignite that friendship and that connection with he's one of the people that has meant such a lot to me in my life, and I kind of almost lost touch with Wales to a certain extent. So I really wanted to work with him again. I wanted to work with Frank Healy, who's a long-standing friend of mine, So to get that opportunity to do that was something that really kind of has driven us forward, and that's the main drive of why we are so productive as a band. Mm-hmm. Without mentioning, of course, the amazing creative input that Scott Fairfax brings to the equation. Right. Scott, in many respects, comes from a different sphere of influence from us. He's like 10 years younger than us, so he's a different kind of a different animal maybe, and he brings a different kind of tones and textures to his guitar playing, to what we're doing as a band. And the songs are all based around, songs that he has developed, songs that come from, what I refer to as his the $1 million riff vault that he has got. He's got lots of riffs that's stored up there from over the years which he's never used, and he keeps on firing them at us and surprising us with these old riffs that he has never used, alongside the new riff that he's writing as well, which really kind of perpetuates the speed and the pace at which we are recording. So actually, as you pointed out there, we had the debut album was out in March 2017, and now we're a year on and we're just about to release our second album. So we're achieving a hell of a lot in a relatively short space of time, and that creative passion and that fire is really within us right now, and we're enjoying every moment that we've got doing it.
Nice, very nice. I've been listening to this album for more than a week now, and every time I listen to it, I feel that the last one was, there was a lot of emotional content in it, and this time, although I'm not finding much emotional content, and what I find here is that you guys have amped up the aggression to the next level. And is that primarily because what you see going around the world that is kind of pissing you off? And obviously music is an outlet for you guys, especially for you as a lyricist. So you pen down these points, like it's as good as a war happening in the world right now, and it's time to write a more aggressive music as compared to being emotionally music which was there on For the Fallen.
Absolutely, yeah. There's definitely a progression in what we're doing with Memoriam. I think the first album was very a product of the time. Each album we put out is a document of how we feel at that point. And I think Memoriam is all, it's almost a cathartic experience for me. I'm writing about things, how I feel at that point. And For the Fallen was written at a point in our lives where, we were in a period of loss and grief and sorrow and mourning. And those are the issues that were generally explored on the first album. It was written from quite a place of darkness and sorrow, and those are the issues that were reflected on the first album, very much so. And maybe I touched on a couple of social, political issues that are developing at that point, which I felt were quite important. Issues of Brexit and the rights of right-wing ideology were kind of coming to the front at that point. And what I've found over the past year is that we kind of, Memoriam is all about exploring that kind of process of grief. And as time progresses, that grief changes. So almost the second album is kind of reflective of the next phase of the grieving process, where you are a bit more angry about things, and there's a lot more maybe frustration and kind of contempt and questioning about the theme of war, which I've kind of written about predominantly for years. That this, overtly, there's several songs that feature on the album that do talk about issues that I think are really important in the world, that needs to make comments on social issues about the world in which we live in. You see the epidemic of rape kind of throughout the world, the global rise of the right-wing ideology, and it seems that their voice is growing louder, and as their voice gets louder, the divisions in our society get wider, and ideologies and get polarized further and further. We no longer live in what I consider to be a United Kingdom. We're very divided in our opinions. Brexit is a direct response of that. We see the rise of hate crime.
Right.
And, we need to counter that. I think that's a really dangerous. And for me, what makes the world a beautiful place to live in and what makes Britain a great place, Great Britain, is the effects of diversity, the acceptance of difference, the embracing of different ideas. I come from Birmingham, which is, a cultural melting pot. We, embrace difference. I engage with friends that are Muslims. I engage with friends that are from Afro-Caribbean backgrounds, and I thrive on their difference, and we embrace each other, and we see, we are all as equal. We all do the same, as the song says. And to see the world, in which we live in, kind of being divided up and barriers being built and walls being built up and people being manipulated by the media in fear of immigration. Immigration is a global issue where people need to escape from situations which are threatening their lives, and people want to make a better life for themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. We've all done that throughout history. The world has been built on immigration. The United Kingdom is from the very first days, from the Roman Empire, from the Vikings, from the French. Throughout history, our society is built on assimilating people from different nations and building this nation. And when we start to push people away and be afraid of difference and create a society where hatred is extolled and hate speech develops, that's really what I'm trying to challenge. As an artist, as a musician, it's my position, I think, to say something about these things that really do affect the world we live in. If I was not to do that, I think I'd be doing myself a massive disservice and injustice.
Understood.
It's only right to do so. We've seen it across these times. But alongside that, there's some social political issues. There's also songs about change. There's songs about transition, which is very respective of moving forwards and trying to create a better life from the past and moving forwards. There's also songs on there that are quite personal, which are about issues surrounding dementia. A song called Nothing Remains, in particular, is written about my mum, who is 90 years old and has been affected by dementia over the past year.
Right. The DNA. Obviously, when I think about MEMORIAM, I get that bolt thrower vibe as well, which is expected because that's there in your DNA. You've lived that life, with the band for decades. But at the same time, I hear a lot of new experimentation, new textures, new sounds being introduced. With the second album now, going to be released next month, was there any thought process behind maintaining a good balance of having a bolt thrower vibe on the album, but at the same time also move forward and bring in new things, embrace new styles and new sounds and new textures?
Yeah, definitely. I think you've identified that quite succinctly in your resume there. Yeah. I mean, we always are going to have the proud traditions of our musical heritage involved with anything that we create musically. And we're very proud of what we created with Box over 30 years and Better Addiction and the other bands we've been involved with. And you can't really ever take that away. To a certain extent, we're always going to have that expectation placed upon us. And to a certain extent, sometimes that can work in our favour. Sometimes it can work against us. We're always going to have that all MEMORIAM. They're great, but they sound too much like Balto, or MEMORIAM, they're great, but they don't sound enough like Balto. So sometimes you can never win with that angle.
Right.
But, respectively, we try to move forward and try and create our own identity through what we're doing as a band. I think with the first album, particularly, we're very aware of the expectations that were placed upon us as a band, and so we could do something which had a large element of that bolt sort of sound to it, which is great. but ultimately we found that a little bit kind of restricted. Maybe at that point in our career we were very much tied to the chains and the shadows of our previous incarnations in our previous bands, and that was good. So that was almost like our initial debut and our stamping of our identity up and putting our wares on display in the shop front. And what's different with this new album is I think we've managed to forge forward and maybe to a certain extent break away more from those shadows and those chains. And we've created an album which is more us, more memoriam, rather than the links to the past are starting to be removed, and we are exploring different styles and textures and tones. There's a massive variety of different songs on the album, which I think maybe that was lacking on the last album.
Nice.
There was a lot of difference in the initial stages, and maybe not really kind of like knowing where we wanted to go. And to a certain extent, the first album we felt was a little bit utilized, a lot of samples and maybe a little compressed in places. So we were aware that we wanted to create something that was a bit rawer, a bit more real, a bit more warmer,
organic,
and a bit more depth. Yeah, a bit more organic in its processing and development with this new album.
Awesome.
So we very much were aware to record an album where we used rear amps for a start.
Right.
Add-ons. So you've got the clumps and the clumps and the chunks and the sounds and the pops of the amp that we've kept in there, which enhances the sound. And again, there's a couple of songs on the last album which didn't really work when we played them live. We tried to play them live. So this album, we've very much done songs that we can recreate in a live environment.
Understood.
And I think generally speaking, we're coming into our own. We've to develop as a band and create our own identity. And this album is more memoriam-ish. You know what I mean? Definitely, we're breaking free of the past and forging our own identity and moving in the right direction.
That's great. Karl, what about touring? Where are you guys taking the route this time? And obviously you played Roadburn and so many other festivals last year, but what about this year? Anything planned at the moment?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we started our touring schedule last week. We played on Sunday. We played a local gig in Birmingham, HRH Festival in Birmingham, which was good fun. Yeah, it was good to start off the schedule with a hometown gig, playing to family and friends, which was nice. But yeah, to be perfectly brutally honest, we're not a touring band. We never will be a touring band. We've done all the old, getting on a tour coach and playing, 6 weeks tours around Europe and America or whatever. And in the past, that's been great. Yeah, we enjoyed it. I'll never decry that. It's been a fantastic experience. But at this point in our lives, we pretty much are at the privileged position that we can choose what we want to do.
Right.
Yeah, and getting on the tour bus for 6 weeks is just something that doesn't really hold any real passion and enjoy. We've done that. We've got the T-shirt, read the book. So we just tend to do things on our own terms. We want to play the shows that we want to play. Places we haven't played before, maybe, or places we've played in the past that we really enjoyed. So it works well for us that way. We've all got external responsibilities outside of the band. We've got jobs, we've got kids, family, and different commitments. So we just tend to do the things that we want to do. I mean, so far this year we've got about 20 shows lined up, which are a combination of larger festivals. We're playing Bloodstock, we're playing Hellfest, we're playing Inferno. So we're playing some of the larger festivals, but we're also playing a few smaller independent festivals alongside we're playing some smaller club shows. Yeah, and really for us, from last year's experience, we enjoyed playing the club shows.
Always intimate.
That's really where it's for us. It's a lot more. The experience is a lot more intense. It lends more to the sound we're creating. Yeah, and we can engage on a more one-to-one, personal, intimate level with our friends and family and fans. And it works best